Like, I've been overweight before. Like, I've played overweight before. I know I wasn't in the best shape. I know I didn't play great. The second Adelaide game, yeah, you could say I played like shit.
Have a look at those stats. Only 8 points a game this year. He's got twice as many turnovers that he does assists, shooting 10% from the three-point line. Now he's been benched.
If you're not playing well, don't look well, I should play other players.
You don't take 2 games and then put a first team All-NBL on the bench, you know? You don't do that.
The sleeping giant might be awake.
With me being pissed off, you get a good performance, you know?
Dan and Lamar pretty much weren't on the same page since day one. Dan likes to give a little bit of freedom and things to, you know, some of his star players to find their own way, because a guy like Lamar, who's been a professional for a long time, been successful, sometimes you just have to step back and trust that they know how to get themselves up to that level. But you could tell, like, those guys, they just didn't click.
Hello and welcome to Far North Queensland, and for the second time in 3 days, the Cairns Taipans take on the New Zealand Breakers.
I believe the good players want to be coached and want to be held accountable and don't want to give in anything. This is the good players. And I don't treat everybody the same. It's not a democracy. Not everybody is equal. Usually I tell it to players who sometimes cannot afford and are on a very short leash. They cannot afford to make a mistake like Lamar can. They make a mistake and they lose their minutes, and they need to play a much cleaner game. But in order to win the game, everybody's equal.
This is the game plan. Who's going to execute it? If you're not, I'm going to give someone else a chance.
And I'm not going to keep somebody in if I don't think that it's going to help us win the game just based on past or name or whatever.
In the last couple of years, 2 All-NBL first teams.
We're already playing shaky. So once again, I go back to the basic. Go to your main guy, go to your guy. He will take care of business.
And just a poor execution, poor pass.
He came off the first screen, had to release it. He would get it back. Our system is built around him. So also our flow offense was come off the screen. If you have something, take it, play, create, get a shot, attack. If you don't, release the ball is coming back to you after 5 seconds in a better position for you to go. He didn't release the ball for whatever reason, turn the ball over. With him, I say, why don't you release the ball? Why didn't you release the ball? Now, if it's the real me, I would grab him by the shirt and say, release the fucking ball, you will get it back. Okay, but I know I'm mic'd and I know I'm on TV and I know it's Lamar, so I say it very clearly and professionally.
I'm a master of the unscript. Like, I know a lot of my coaches that I've played for, they never really drew plays up for me because they just, okay, well, just get it in the flow of the game.
Lamar Patterson just went to go under the screen. No ball pressure whatsoever. But now Cairns will try and extend this 6-point lead. Quatnoy as open at the other end. He makes them pay. The lead is 9. And Lamar Patterson, he puts his hands up and says, well, hang on, where's the rotation? But to me, Lamar Patterson right underneath the basket, guarding no one, and wide open shot.
It was just too much for me. I feel like everything just wasn't what I was like expecting. I wasn't happy.
Previous play, play right. Now this is what the timeout is for. So start playing right.
It's very strict on to like what he wants done. He wants it done.
The tone in which he was delivering his message Clearly showing a high level of frustration with his star off-season signing.
I could play in the system, I can do that, but it's definitely a lot harder when it's just like I feel like the faith wasn't there after probably like first week.
It's always a matter of point of view. The player may think it's lack of confidence in him, but when an organization pays somebody a shitload amount of money, building a team around you, bringing the big that is right for you, I think this is a vote of confidence. Now you need to deliver.
Is it more on him right now to be able to get it, or is it a 50-50
I think
split?
it's both.
You know, we saw last night in the huddle for New Zealand, right? Like, there's a disconnect right now between guys like Lamar Patterson and Dan Shamir.
I think he expected the leniency. Like his resume or reputation was going to step on the court and not himself. It's just not how basketball works, and it's not how Dan operates. He came in the most unprofessional condition I've ever seen in my life. If we lost confidence after we saw him weigh 120 kilos, yeah, you always do.
The real winners don't look for anything external to be given to you. I thought I think we did everything to put Lamar in a very successful position, very successful situation.
Baseline. Working that key.
That will frustrate Dan Shamir because that was pretty...
Like I give credit to Dan, like he called plays for me, trying to get me going, and if it didn't work, I feel like he just went away from it, and that kind of is like deflating for a player.
Right now, I don't think he feels like if he touches it, that thing's not coming back.
Just a lot of stuff just was built up, you know, and then so I think that was more so me wanting to just part ways, because I feel like I'm doing everyone else a favor. These guys don't deserve half of me, and I honestly wouldn't want to fully give it my all, knowing like just how it started and just some of the relationships and stuff like that.
Jared Weeks, a great man, but he's an Aussie though. Nah, I love Weeksy.
Everybody loves Wicks. He's a five-star guy and a true partner.
It was an amazing start to the season, I guess, off the court for my wife and I, finding out that we were going to, give birth to our first child at the end of June.
Yeah, Jared was really struggling at the start of the season, as I think any human would, with living away from your partner.
Yeah, so me and Rob become pretty close over the last 2 years. Spent that extended time in the off-season together, which is usually time that two teammates from different countries don't really get. So obviously with Rob going through the birth of his newborn child as well, and then having to leave within a couple of days was tough on him. And we were just able to bounce ideas off each other and try and talk through some of the things we were going through at home. We were told that around mid-March we'd be back in New Zealand, so we'd come up with a plan to maybe have the child over there. And then as the season went on and on, we booked a hospital spot in Sydney, and then one in Melbourne, and then one in Launceston.
Here's Weeks.
I saw Jared wearing the armband, the black, or he had it on his uniform, I think. Yeah,
so Michelle's dad had been sick earlier in the year. Yeah, he sadly passed away in January. We did a virtual wake while I was in Tasmania. Unfortunately, wasn't able to go home for that. Just being away from your pregnant wife is hard enough, but yeah, to not be able to support her like physically in person while she's going through that was just unbelievably hard. Obviously one of the hardest parts of my life.
Jared Weeks is so happy to see that ball go in. Before that one went in, he's gone 5 straight games with 0 points.
I think that that kind of off-court stuff was really hard to push aside.
Living away from your partner and having a loss like that, it's pretty tough. You know, what I was saying to Jared was just keep being confident. You know, everyone had confidence in him to make shots and shoot the ball as much as he wanted.
I think it was tough for Rob, you know. I think Rob probably struggled the most, maybe even.
Basket didn't find him, now it's Oliver and Lowe, and that'll be a double foul. Referee, now they want to have a chat about it. Do they agree it's a double foul? I'm assuming that's what they're saying.
Look, I had a little bit of an idea of what was going on with Rob, and you know, he had a new baby and things at home, and things weren't going great. He was dealing with his own personal stuff, as most of us were. You know, you have some bad feedback written about you after a bad game and things sometimes, and as a professional, that's part of sport. You can deal with that, because as long as it's honest, like if I have a bad game, someone writes something bad with it about me, fair enough. Like, it's part of being a sports person.
It was complete bullshit what the media did to Tom Abercrombie. I'd been around the game of basketball professionally for over 15 years. I played on a number of teams in Europe. I played in the NBA for a short time. Tom Abercrombie is the prototype of a team captain and a good man if you could build him from scratch. And he does everything right. He does great work in the community. He's a great family man. He's the best teammate. He's so professional. And to go after his family like that, it was nasty.
Star basketballer Tom Abercrombie has told Newshub his family was allowed to isolate at home rather than a government-run hotel because 2 of his children are autistic.
The Breakers player says it's not a case of favouritism by government officials.
Frustrated and disappointed at the moment. Yeah, we have received a lot of backlash, and I think it's the disappointing thing in just how the situation's been portrayed. I won't go into too much detail about what our kids' special medical needs are. Suffice to say that they both have significant and complex medical needs, both behaviourally and medically.
When his family left, a medical exemption was sought so they could isolate at home rather than a government-run facility. Some critics have suggested they received special treatment. Abercrombie says that's not the case.
In no way or form was that because of who I am or who we are.
I felt desperately sorry for the Abercrombie family yesterday, victims of yet another one of this country's shabby clickbait obsessions. Their home was worth $3 million, and their $3 million home was in one of North Shore's Reed Auckland's most exclusive areas. So was the story about an exemption or about property? This cheap, superficial, and in this case nasty attempt to draw readership comes at the expense of a family's predicament that need I even begin to suggest we would not wish on anyone there but for the grace.
It was bloody hectic having 3 kids in a little hotel room or a little apartment while we were over there.
Tom is one of my all-time favorite players, but you never know what's going on in anybody's head. Okay, you can have a conversation, you can give some support, but you cannot get into a guy's head.
Everyone was tearing shreds off each other. Me and Monique were going crazy, and we were faced with the prospect of jumping around state to state, hotel to hotel for the next few months. And so we spent the week scouring the MIQ site trying to secure a voucher, which not easy to do at that stage. So we were literally on there at all hours, just refreshing the page, waiting for a voucher to pop up. And I think it was like 10 o'clock one night. I was just pushing refresh on my computer mindlessly, and something popped up for the next day. And we just looked at each other and were like, are we going to do this? We're like, yep, okay. So we booked the voucher, and then you obviously got to book your flights too. So we booked flights for the next morning. It was the first time I'd kind of said goodbye to Pilot, my oldest one, and that he'd really understood that. He was saying goodbye, and I was saying goodbye to him, and yeah, that was really tough for me.
I thought about Tom all the time. I thought about Tom when we moved to Melbourne, that it's going to be tough, relocating 3 young kids, and now living in an apartment hotel in Melbourne with no life, the normal life. I thought it's going to be hard. Then going to Hobart, then separating.
And to go after his wife and his kids when they're obviously going through a tough situation. I mean, they're leaving Tom for an unknown amount of time in Australia. You don't know when you're going to see him again, and they're coming home to getting blasted in the media. It was bullshit. You know, we did everything we could to support Tom. I told Tom, do you want whatever you need from us? Do you want us to do a press conference? Do you want us to go after people? And it's not the kind of person Tom is, but he was hurt.
For sure he was hurt. I told him, fuck them. No more interviews for the Herald or stuff or whoever it was. You know, it just goes to show, you know, you can do the right thing your whole life. You know, it can come for anyone, that type of slander.
Kind of following the schedule is quite tough on guys mentally. You know, we were bounced around so much. You know, we were supposed to go to Perth early in the season, and then we went to Cairns, and we're in Sydney, and we're supposed to be in Melbourne. It's quite tough getting bounced around as an athlete, not knowing when your next game is, or when your next training is, or day off, or what have you.
The hub for us meant going back to our conceived home, going back to our previous ideas of being located in one place and operating as a functional team out of Melbourne. So we were looking for that kind of stability and certainty. Being in one place for 6 weeks was a huge thing for us.
We were scheduled to play Sydney and then go to Melbourne the next day. With all the NBL rules coming in and the regulations and things, we decided to send Michelle down 10 days earlier so she could do her isolation rules to come into the team. And then obviously we were very excited, you know, counting down, you know, the months we'd been apart. She'd gone home in October or November the year before, so it'd been a long time, and yeah, excited to get down there as the countdown went on. And then obviously one case pops up in Melbourne, and then we hear there's a press conference.
Thanks for joining us. Firstly, in the last 24 hours, there have been 5 cases of coronavirus notified to the Department of Health.
It's tough to rate some of the days we experienced during this season, but that was definitely one of the worst.
Because this is so infectious and is moving so fast, we need a circuit breaker. From 11:59 p.m. tonight, there will only be 4 reasons to leave your home: shopping, caregiving and compassionate reasons, essential work, exercise for 2 hours per day. You must stay within 5 kilometres of your home.
Masks must be worn everywhere in Victoria other than in your home.
You know, our guys are basketball players, and they have a responsibility to perform. And Jared was in a tough spot. His wife was pregnant. He left her behind. They were looking forward to connecting back together in Melbourne. And the constant change of circumstances sometimes throws you a curveball.
I think the hardest part was trying to get hold of her Tried to book a flight on the last flight out, but obviously everyone was trying to do the same thing out of Melbourne, so I think the flights went from around 200 to about 980 within the space of one press conference.
With Jared, we had talked at lengths about the similar situations that we were in, which was both our wives were pregnant and we were obviously from afar. There were times that I felt like I was the boss and had to put down the law, and then in other occasions I was the friend, to kind of talk to and be the support that's needed.
And then we realised that the league wouldn't have allowed her to come into the team environment anyway, because obviously she'd been in Melbourne.
Rob's a good guy, so he's always asking like how I am. My mind was so heavy, with what was going on, coping with the birth of my child. But it was also something at the time I wasn't really like open to talk to everyone about it.
Sure, that was a difficult time for him, missing the birth. I was there for both of my children's births, and it is life-changing. So sometimes in life, that's how things go. He was away for his job. It wasn't like he chose to miss the birth. He had to be away. And if he wasn't with the Breakers, he would have been even further away in Europe probably.
You saw my situation, you see Jared's situation, you see Rob's situation. Everyone was going through their own personal issues, and as much as you try and put that stuff to the side and go out and play basketball to the best of your ability, we were seeing it creep in to our performance. The one common denominator was that we were all going through stuff on our own too, and that was the sort of thing that binded a lot of us together, is that we're all going through shit, we're all struggling. We've just got to try and find a way to make this work. But there was also a big element of guys just keeping stuff themselves too, because we're guys. That's what we do, unfortunately.
It's brutal being away from the team. I think the team being away presented a lot of challenges for the organization, and one of them was we weren't able to lean on our family culture. While we did everything we could to support our players while they were overseas, it's different when you don't have a home. It's different when you can't come over to my house for dinner if you're struggling. When you see your people struggling and your people going through hell and you can't be there for them directly, it feels hollow when you call and say, hey, you have my support.
So let's give a shout out to the Breakers, who are doing it tough right now. We don't know when they're going to get back to New Zealand.
This is a real grind for this team, and the losses aren't helping, right? 4 losses from their first 5 games, but they've been away since before Christmas. There's no light at the end of the tunnel for them in terms of getting home, seeing their family. Corey Webster, his son, celebrated his 5th birthday a couple of days ago, and Corey wasn't able to be there to get involved. He was busy doing that, putting 25 points on the board at over 50% from the field. Great to see him rocking and rolling. All that time on the road, under the strict COVID protocols, we thank them for everything that they're doing to be in the league, to be out there on the floor so that we can watch their talents on display.
I agree. It is extremely difficult to play all your games on the road. It's not an easy league, man. So at some point you need your home behind you, your fans behind you. So guys are doing it tough, but hang in there. At the end of the day, got to figure out ways to get this done on the road. So good luck to you the rest of the way.
10-point win for the Sydney Kings in their first home game of the Hungry Jacks NBL 21 season.
I think it's tough. I see it on our guys, and I think it's tough. It's tough for them to play, and we're just in a hotel room all the time. But it's not an excuse. I miss my family too.
And is it a good time to be getting into the Melbourne bubble, quite an intense period? Where you're going to be in one spot?
We're not going to Melbourne.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, we're again we're in a bit of an unknown for the next. We just have the next probably couple of days or 3 days planned. Obviously, things are changing that are out of our hands.
player by player, and almost everybody's having tough times. And when you're asking them what is going on, probably when you're asking them what's going on, so a lot of things come up. We didn't plan to be here, and the families, and Rob just had a baby, and there's a lot of things on the plate. Think about coaching a team like that. What do? Do you just spend most of your time talking to people about their life and about what's going on? And there's a very fine line between how much energy you put into that and how much you should put into just demanding from everybody, hey, I know this is tough for everybody, we're in the same boat, but we need to play and we need to work, and this is our careers and we need to overcome this. Things are not 100% easy, I know, life-wise, okay? Everybody has something in his head. And on top of that, we're 4-1, so they don't know what came before what. Okay? Is it tough and then we don't win, or is it that we don't win and everything gets tough?
No, you fucking run down, Rob. I don't have you fucking run, dude. What are you doing? Sitting on your fucking arms?
Yeah, I mean, the vibe of that practice was kind of on edge, I guess, you know.
You hit yourself in the back.
So that's kind of when I knew, like, something's going to happen soon.
Again, you got to go for a rebound, man.
Everyone's kind of losing it.
Somebody's going to have a scrap today.
There wasn't a fight, luckily. Having a fight within your team can be good for a team and your team chemistry if you can leave it there. I've been on plenty of teams where there's been fights and arguments and we've gone on to win the championship. It can be a good thing if you know how to handle it after the incident.
You've got 6 minutes with me. 6 minutes with me.
I can't remember what Dan said to me during that chat. I just remember telling him that I wasn't doing very well. Getting back to Melbourne felt good, for sure. I was looking forward to a change of scenery, and from a team perspective, having the opportunity of a lot of games.
Everyone was looking forward to that, just to have a place to stay in and call a home base for a while, not so much travelling around, kind of a reset.
We've been apart for a very long time at that point, and obviously the spirit's lifted. Life didn't seem so bad anymore, and it was just the best part of the trip.
It was a false sense of hope, I think. A whole bunch of dudes locked up in hotels downtown Melbourne. It's not like we were just in Melbourne, you know, just living free like how we are in New Zealand normally, or even how the other people in Melbourne are living. You know, pretty much the rest of Melbourne can do whatever they want. We're kind of confined to rules that the NBL's put on us.
I don't know who released it to the fucking media in the first place. And social media these days, eh? Shouldn't have told my agent. Hardest parts about being away is just not being there for my family. And my wife's raising my child by herself, and just seeing him grow on FaceTime isn't the same as seeing him grow in your hands. It's been pretty tough, so yeah.
Robert approached me earlier in the week and said that it was something he was thinking about doing, and I remember telling him, like, "Mate, you gotta do what you gotta do." I wasn't gonna sit there and stop him from going home if he really wanted to go home, but as it happened, it all happened extremely quickly from there. I guess kind of like my situation, he's sitting there on the MIQ thing trying to get a voucher, and one pops up the next day and all of a sudden he's gone.
I think everyone's going through a little bit of issues right now. You know, it's one thing to say I'll go away for a couple months and everything will be cool home side, but when you actually do it, it really shows how much you miss them and how much they need you as well.
Good, bro? Okay, bro. Back away, bro.
Thanks, brother.
I knew that his wife was back home struggling, so I was just coming from a family angle. When it came to the team side of things, I was disappointed because we all have family back home. Some of us have kids back home. We were all sacrificing something to be there. Everyone went through stages of imagining going home. So yeah, there was two sides to it for me.
Found out about Rob leaving via a WhatsApp message. It was a shock at first. I didn't really know what to think about it.
The position he was put in was one that probably most people don't want to go through. Just seeing his newborn child at, his firstborn, and then having to leave for an extended period of time that no one knew at that point, after only 3 or 4 days or whatever it was obviously weighing on him. I supported it. It was tough on everyone. It absolutely was tough on everyone, but for Robbie to make that call, I supported him, yeah.
Life outside of basketball at the end of the day, but just to be in it, to be there and us together, and then feel one of the brothers just leave like that. We just felt abandoned. I think we just felt short-handed. For a long time, yeah, it was fuck or blow for me.
I guess it could have strained relationships. If it did, it's not my place to comment on that. I did it for personal reasons, and if it strained relationships, then it's kind of on them to accept that. As a teammate, I pride myself on being quite a good teammate, and not being there to help the boys was super hard for me.
Really disappointing that he did choose to leave, and that quickly grew to frustration that it felt like he'd deserted us. We're all obviously going through shit, and I'm sure we'd all thought about going home at different stages, but for him to actually do it was another thing. It did become a little bit of a binding thing for us at that point. I remember sending out a message to all the guys after that and just being like, guys, fuck this, we're in this together. Like, we can either continue to fight what's happening to us and be miserable, or we can come together, try and make a change and try and embrace our situation a little bit more, because it's not going to change.
We're just going to get some absolute gold today. Me, the river behind me, sun glistening off my pasty face. The day I get a spray tan is the day I'm no longer a basketball player.
Have 5 more, then we'll get the trophy.
Guys, we're just going to form like a bit of a V, and it's the first, so because there's 9 of you, I'll get one to start in the centre, and then you're just going to fall off their shoulders, so just come up here.
I was just joking that they might want Melbourne in the middle and the Breakers on the edge. They were serious.
Just chuck him on the end, huh?
Just come back in behind him and touch there, yeah.
Watch me stay.
Tom is an extremely accomplished man, especially in the NBL. Very few have done what Tom's done in this league.
Behind him and touch there, yeah, good.
That when we win and we get those championships that we have, I think it's kind of like a massive finger in the face to all the Aussie clubs.
They don't want us winning their league because that's still Australian-New Zealand rivalry.
Here we go, guys. Nice.
When we won our championships, they didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't want us to be at the top.
We are just sitting in our hotel room all the time, or we are in practice. Amar actually told me, I told him for a little chat, and we said, you need to help everybody because you're an experienced import and you've been in this situation many times before, living away from family and stuff like that, and for a lot of people it's new. And he said, no man, this is not similar to anything I've been in, and you just don't have life.
The role of imports in this league is very important. There's very high expectations.
Rob leaving was tough. Events like that affect how people play. He understood that he's on his own now, and he needs to deliver.
The entire basketball community feels great sympathy for what the New Zealand Breakers and empathy for what they are going through.
We've never been in this. The whole team is on the road.
For me, it was a relief to get back to Melbourne. Kind of took away the home court advantage that teams were having on us as the neutral site.
The game starts, and yeah, you feel like we might be forming something. The team is starting to get the structure that we envisioned it to get. Colton being a force in the paint, on the boards, defensively, as a finisher.
And that's the most rebounds by anyone this season.
Any of this season.
And Lamar starting to turn the corner in his shape and form.
They understand they've got to get Lamar Patterson going, and that's not an easy shot, a little step back from the three, but he knocks it down like we've seen so many times before in a Brisbane Bullets jersey.
Hopefully he's okay.
That is not a good sign, is it?
Yeah, just gotta get this initial pain out the way.
You never want to wish an injury on someone, let alone a teammate, let alone our best player, you know, on the team. It's just kind of like, fuck, man. This could have been avoided, it felt like. Just take better care of your body. It's a heavy body to move around.
He's a really good player, and we've been trying to kind of really get him going and really investing in this. And you know, so then again, you kind of have to go back to you know, searching for other ways to be successful.
This shit hurts. I got my leg, someone stepped on my foot, so my whole leg twisted. And I felt my knee pop.
I'm a guy who looks for a story for the team. The story, something organized, and it was coming into the season was Lamar's team. We wanted to build a team where Lamar is the key guy. When he got injured, I thought, okay, it's going to be the Webster and Webster show now.
The Webster brothers are splashing. They're putting on a show.
Well, this is what I think most people thought at the start of the season would happen with the Webster brothers.
This win is the equal biggest in the history of the franchise.
Probably the best team out of the top four at the moment.
It's been a season like no other for them. Challenging, emotional, a long way away from home. They're fighting with everything they've got. Delaney!
Wow.
Enormous!
In retrospect, it's unbelievable how every time that something good happens, it's been taken away from us.
And then when he left, didn't hear from him again. Didn't speak to him again.